everyone, it's Shannon and welcome to my channel, The Daily DIYer. If you are a beginner bow maker or if you just have trouble making bows in general, then this is definitely the tutorial for you. Today I'm going to show you how to make one of the most simple and easy bows, one that anyone can create. And I know once you practice a couple times, you are going to get this down. And so in addition to this basic bow that I'm going to show you, I'm also going to throw in there a little bit more fanciness at the end so you can take the basic steps and add to it to create something a little bit more fancy and even something larger if you need it. So very first, let's talk about a couple of the supplies that you'll need to have on hand before we get started making our bow. So let's start by talking about ribbon, because obviously this is what your bow is made of, and depending on the type of ribbon that you choose is how it is going to function and hold its form. So if you are a beginner bow maker, I absolutely recommend using a ribbon that has the wire in the edges. And the reason for that is you are not going to get those saggy loops or looking bows, because the wire is going to help hold the shape of your bow. The other options of ribbon that's out there is like a grosgrain. This does not have wire in it, but has like a texture to it. And there's also satin ribbon, like this red one here, that has kind of a sheen or a shine to it. And again, this does not have wire in the edges either. You can absolutely make bows with these. I'm not saying you can't at all. It's just, if you're just now starting, I would absolutely recommend to just start out with the wire ribbon, and then you can kind of try and see how you like the other types of ribbons. Another thing to take note whenever you are creating a bow is the size of your ribbon. So of course, the larger or the wider your ribbon is, the bigger your bow is going to be. So this is a 3-inch, whereas this is 1.5 inches. So of course you want to take that into consideration as you are shopping for your ribbon. And today I'm actually going to be using a ribbon from Dollar Tree. So this is a great way to start too, so you don't waste a lot of money on expensive ribbon while you are practicing. This is actually really great quality. It is a velvet ribbon, and you get it for $1, of course, 9 feet of it on a roll from Dollar Tree. And I've actually used this outside in my Christmas decor. I'll show you a little picture of that. This is great quality ribbon, but it's also great to just start out with. And then another tip is to hit Hobby Lobby when their ribbon goes 50% off. So these rolls were all only $2 each, and you can find all kinds of styles and prints there at a really affordable price. You're also going to need to have something on hand to tie off your bows with. So there's a few different options with this. You can use a yarn or string, you can use pipe cleaners, you can use jute, and my suggestion is just pick something that is also going to match your ribbon, because we don't want these standing out. So maybe if you're going to be tying it onto like your post outside or a railing, pipe cleaners are great for that. If you have a burlap style ribbon, then jute is great for that. And then like a yarn or a string in whatever color your ribbon is. Another option is to even use zip ties. And then also really important is a very sharp pair of scissors so that you can cut your ribbon and it has a nice crisp edge. These I actually get from Michael's. I've used these for years and years and years. They're only $5, but they are the most sharp scissors at this price point that I can find. And they also have a pointy tip on the end, so you can do some kind of detail cutting if you need to. If I can find the link to this, I will link that down in the description box. You'll also need some type of glue. I just kind of recommend hot glue because it dries quickly and it holds strongly. So I'll also link this glue gun that I used down in the description box. You can find it for like $10 on Amazon. It's super cheap, and I love that the base is flat, so you can just set it right on your countertop. Alright, and the very first thing we want to do is we want to get our string or zip tie or whatever we're using handy, because likely our hands are going to be full when it's time to use it. So I always just recommend cutting off a section and setting it off to the side. And now we can get to working on our ribbon. So I have a little extra scrap, and I'm going to put this off to the side because I am going to use that. But we want to work with our loops first. So again, I'm using wire ribbon for this from the Dollar Tree to start, and I'm always leaving this part on the roll because In case we want to make it bigger, then we still have that option. So you don't want to cut yourself off a section, just leave it on your roll. Now, we're going to make the most simple and basic bow in 2 different parts, but they are so simple and go together quickly. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a circle. And what you're going to do is you're going to put the tail on the length of your ribbon that's still attached to your roll, so we have a circle. Now, we're going to find the middle, so you kind of pull up. This way we can find the center of the top of our circle, and then we're going to bring our thumbs together. So we have a thumb holding the tail, we have a thumb on the top of our circle, and we're going to bring those together. And what we've done here is we've created loops, 1 on each side. Okay, now at this point you want to see, is this the size bow that I want? So if I want it bigger, we're going to start that process over and we're going to move that tail out. So if we want a bigger bow, we're now going to make a larger circle. We're going to pull up and find that middle top of our circle, bring our thumbs together so that they meet, and now we have 2 larger loops, 1 on each side. Once we're happy with the length or the size of our bow, now we're going to take our scissors and we're going to cut the tail off. So we now know how much ribbon we need to make our bow. So I'm going to set that ribbon off to the side. We still have our bow gripped right in the middle, and this is a very important part of bow making, and that is how you crease your centers. So you can have the most beautiful even loops, but when you go to crease your center, it can just become a big ball of mess, and we don't want that. So I'm going to show you how easy it is to crease your center, and then your loops will stay nice and your center will also stay nice, and you'll see in just a little bit why that's important. So what we're going to do is we're literally going to take our thumbs in the middle and we're going to push down and away from ourselves so that our sides kind of come up and meet in the middle. Okay, so let's do that one more time. We're going to take our thumbs, push down so that we have this part coming out the back. We're going to pull our sides together, and then what we're going to do is we're actually going to bend these sides back. Okay, so we've basically created 2 mountains. This is what I always say. We've created a mountain with a valley in the middle. Okay, so let me pull this apart so you can kind of see a little better. Maybe it's a little hard depending on what your screen looks like. But we have pushed our center down, pulled the sides up, but then we have refolded the sides back down in the middle. So this is what, let me give you a close-up. This is what the middle of our bow looks like right now. So we have a mountain, and a valley down, right down the center. And our sides are folded halfway back. Let me do this up close for you guys one more time. So we're gonna push down in the middle, and then we pull our sides back to meet where it ends in the back. Okay? So mountain, valley in the middle. So you can see here we have this pretty little space on the sides here. That does make a difference. That is going to make your bows look beautiful. It's just one of those extra little steps that if you do, it's going to make your bows look nice when they're all finished. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to tie the center up. Now is when you want to grab your string that we set off to the side earlier, and this is why I said it's good to have this ready, because we have one hand holding our bow. It can get difficult to like use our scissors and pull it out and cut it. So we want to make sure our bows stay nice looking while we add our string to the middle. So what I'm going to do is I'm literally just going to wrap the middle of this bow. I mean, it doesn't really matter how many times you do it. I would say at least 2 times. So make sure you go around and around, and then your tails will end up in the back, and we're going to tie it in a double knot on the back. So this is what our bow looks right now. We have those tails hanging down. We're going to keep those there. We need those. And we have a basic top of a bow. Now we're going to add a tail. Of course, this part is optional, and as you get better at making bows, you can alter how they look, and you don't have to put a tail if you don't want, just depends on your style. But now we're going to add a tail. So like I said, I had set this off Save your scrap pieces of ribbon. This was off of a previous roll. Save your scrap pieces of ribbon because they'll come in handy for things like this whenever you want to make a tail. So what I'm gonna do is, it depends. Depending on how long you want your tails to be, is how long you wanna cut off. See, if you don't want them too long, cut a shorter piece. If you want them longer, cut a longer piece. But basically what we're gonna do is find the middle. We're gonna find the middle, just kind of like we did with the circle. So I put my tails together, found the center, and we're gonna crease this the exact same way we creased our bow. So I'm gonna bring this up close again. We're going to push our thumbs down so our sides come up, and we're gonna bend those side pieces backwards. So again, we have our mountain, and a valley in the center. That makes a nice crease instead of a jumbled up mess. So now I also wanted to mention, I had said to use a string or something that matches your bows. Like I would want to use a red string for this. If you have it, it's not necessarily like a must, but if you have it on hand, use something that matches. I'm using something opposite color just so that you guys can see what I'm doing down here, and that way it's a little bit easier to see on camera. So what I'm doing here is I'm just gonna pull the string ends apart. We're going to press our tail into the middle of the bow, and we're gonna take our strings and wrap them around the middle. And that is literally what is attaching our tail onto the bow. So I'm sure a lot of you, when you tie your shoestrings, you know, make this and you make this, and then your tails don't always come down evenly, or your center kind of looks a little funky. This prevents all of that. So this way you get a much more tailored bow. So what we have here is what looks like a bow now. And at this point, you can cut your ends off. There's a couple ways to do it. You can cut them at an angle like this, or you can fold your ribbon in half. So I'm just gonna fold it long ways so our edges meet up, and then you cut from top down to the corner, and that will dovetail your ends of your ribbon. So here's two different ways you can finish off your tails. You can have the angled look, or you can have the dovetail look. Now what we have is almost a finished bow, but not quite. We're going to actually cover up the center, and you can use a scrap piece of ribbon, which I actually think this will probably work. So you can put whatever kind of center on your bow you want. You can use the exact same ribbon, and then it all blends well. Since my ribbon is super big and we don't want that big of a center, I'm actually going to just fold my ribbon three ways, so that this side goes halfway in, this one goes halfway in, and then I kind of have a nice pretty velvet ribbon without the sides. And now at this point we can use our hot glue. We're just going to put some right in the top middle of our bow, add our folded piece of ribbon on top. We're going to let that sit for a second so it can dry a little bit and cool off. Then you can flip this over. We're gonna put our strings off to the side. Now, if you're gonna attach this, say, onto a wreath or onto a tree, you can leave these on there and use this to literally attach it onto whatever you want. Or if you don't want to attach it and you're just gonna glue it onto something, at this point you'd want to cut your tails off. But I'm gonna go ahead and leave my strings on here. I'm gonna add some hot glue onto the back. We're gonna fold this over. Let that set up for a little bit, and then we're going to add some more hot glue on top of that and fold our other piece over. And we're basically just wrapping the center with ribbon and hot gluing the ends down in the back. All right, and now I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna cut this one so they are both angled, and that way my tails look the same so you guys can see a finished bow. And also, always, always, always fluff your loops. We don't want them smushed and flat and dead looking. You just take your loops and kind of fluff them up, and that wire in the edges of the ribbon is gonna hold them there for you. So that is the best part of using wired ribbon, because your loops are gonna stay nice and fluffy for you. All right, so now that we have created a really simple and basic bow, let's take this to the next level and create one pretty much the same, but has a little bit more fluff and life. So we are going to actually create 2 loops this time. So again, I'm keeping this on my roll. I'm gonna go through this a little bit more quickly so that, you know, I don't go through every single step like I just did. You can rewatch and go rewind and watch the last tutorial again. But I wanna show you how to kind of create a bigger bow using the same steps, but just adding more to it. So what I've done here is I've kind of created the size of bow I wanted with my circle, putting my thumbs together and seeing how big my loops are, but we're gonna actually do this twice. So now I want to cut off another length of ribbon, the exact same size. And that is going to give us 2 loops instead of just 1. So let me take my own advice here. We're gonna get some string ready and set off to the side. And we're going to do the same thing. We're gonna put our tails together, find the center, bring our thumbs together, have our loops on each side, and we are going to make our first loopy crease in the middle. So push your thumbs down, pull those edges back, make sure you have 2 mountains and a valley. Here's where it gets a little tricky, and you can do this a couple ways. I like to, because I'm a little bit more well-versed in making bows, I've done them forever and ever and ever, I'm just gonna make mine by holding 1 loop. If you are just beginning and you wanna try this, and I would suggest maybe taking your string and tying off the center and then putting this down and then creating your next one. But if you can handle it, it'll make your center a little nicer. Hold it in your hand, and we're gonna create the same thing, kind of multitasking here. We're gonna make the same thing, but we're gonna layer this one on top. So I've made my center, I've made my loops, and we're gonna take these 2 and put them together so that now we have 4 loops instead of just the 2. And you see how much more life and how much bigger this one is compared to the last one. The last one is so pretty though, it'd be beautiful on a gift or something. So it's a great way to start out, but if you want to start adding some pizzazz to your bows, this is a different way to do it. So once you have your 2 together, you can tie off the center, and we're just gonna add a tail just like we did on the last one. So I wanted to stop here and give you a close-up look of this one and see how it all looks kind of up in the middle here, where I've attached all the loops together, including the tails underneath, and just tied it in the back with my string. Now I'm gonna go ahead and add my extra piece of ribbon over the middle here to cover up the string. I hope that this tutorial was helpful for you. Of course, you can go back and rewatch this as many times as you need to until you get this technique down. And if you have any questions at all, you can leave those down in the comment section below. I'll also have that other bow tutorial popping up on your screen that you can watch next, where you can learn how to make 4 different types of bows. I would love to have you join me here every week for new DIYs and tutorials, so please hit that subscribe button as well, and I will see you in the next tutorial. Happy crafting!